This week on Jerusalem Dateline, Benjamin Netanyahu makes his case to a joint session of Congress on Iran.
I can guarantee you this. The days when the Jewish people remain passive in the face of genocidal enemies, those days are over.
We'll have reaction and analysis. Plus, a new documentary takes on the Exodus. Did the biblical story really happen? And Israelis celebrate Purim and the deliverance of the Jewish people. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell, coming to you this week with the Knesset, Israel's parliament, in the background. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the U.S. is on the verge of making a bad nuclear deal with Iran. He delivered that message to a joint session of Congress, but President Obama and dozens of Democrats didn't want to hear the warning. CBN's David Brody reports from Washington.
The Prime Minister of Israel, His Excellency Benjamin Netanyahu.
Applause and criticism greeted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu before a controversial appearance in front of Congress. More than 50 Democrats stayed away, some because of upcoming elections in Israel, others because they felt Republican leaders snubbed the White House by inviting the Prime Minister without any notice. President Obama didn't even watch the speech. This didn't help the rocky relationship between the two leaders. But the Prime Minister took the high road, opening with praise for the president.
Some of what the president has done for Israel might never be known because it touches on some of the most sensitive and strategic issues that arise between an American president and an Israeli prime minister. But I know it, and I will always be grateful to President Obama for that support.
The main tension deals with Iran's nuclear program. In leading the negotiations, the U.S. is pushing to downgrade but not eliminate Iran's ability to make nuclear weapons. Netanyahu told Congress it's the wrong strategy.
This deal has two major concessions. One, leaving Iran with a vast nuclear program. And two, lifting the restrictions on that program in about a decade. That's why this deal is so bad. According to the deal, not a single nuclear facility would be demolished. Thousands of centrifuges used to enrich uranium would be left spinning. Thousands more would be temporarily disconnected, but not destroyed.
The White House has repeatedly said that they want a nuclear-free Iran. They just think that negotiations are the way to get there. Yet even White House officials admit that an actual deal with Iran on nuclear weapons is 50-50 at best. But after the Prime Minister's speech, the president questioned a lack of solutions on Netanyahu's part.
On the core issue, which is how do we prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, which would make it far more dangerous and would give it scope for even greater action in the region, the Prime Minister didn't offer any viable alternatives.
Add to the speech White House concern that Congress might pass additional sanctions against Iran. The negotiations are at a sensitive stage, and this strong argument couldn't come at a worse time for deal makers.
If anyone thinks this deal kicks the can down the road, think again. When we get down that road, we'll face a much more dangerous Iran, a Middle East littered with nuclear bombs, and a countdown to a potential nuclear nightmare.
Republican Senator Ted Cruz says the president's role of pacifist-in-chief is chiefly to blame for Israel's situation.
Do you believe he dislikes, first of all, Netanyahu? Do you believe he has antagonism towards Israel?
Undoubtedly. It is heartbreaking. This administration has been the most hostile U.S. administration to Israel in the history of our country.
And Cruz has harsh words for Democrats who didn't show up for the speech.
David, I'll tell you this. No friend of Israel would boycott a speech by the elected leader of Israel, particularly at a time of enormous peril.
Those words, enormous peril, are ones echoed by Netanyahu. His people remember the Holocaust, and he's determined to never let anything like that happen again.
I can guarantee you this. The days when the Jewish people remained passive in the face of genocidal enemies, those days are over. I can promise you one more thing. Even if Israel has to stand alone, Israel will stand. But I know that Israel does not stand alone. I know that America stands with Israel. I know that you stand with Israel.
David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
After the speech, Netanyahu returned home to face a fierce election campaign and praise from some unusual quarters in the Middle East. While in the United States, Benjamin Netanyahu received a warm welcome and much praise. Now that he's back home, the question is, will it make a difference in the upcoming national election? In what some term the speech heard round the world, Netanyahu made a strong case against Iran. Now some Israeli political analysts say the performance helped his party's chances, but a lot could happen before voters go to the polls in less than 2 weeks.
Voters who have voted Likud in the past and now are not sure, that would be an important help for him. Setting the agenda on security issues, I don't think it clinches the election for him. There's still a long way to go.
According to one poll after the speech, the Likud gained 2 seats. It also showed 44% of Israelis believe Netanyahu is most qualified to be prime minister. While the two main parties remain far apart on issues like economics, the rivals agree on the Jewish state's biggest threat.
There is no much difference between Herzog and Labor and Netanyahu and Likud when it comes to the negotiations with Iran.
Surprisingly, many commentators from the Gulf Arab nations stood shoulder to shoulder with Netanyahu's warning to the U.S. and criticized President Obama's negotiations with Iran, a country they consider a mortal enemy. One influential Arab commentator called President Obama the ally of political Islam, which is the mother of all the terrorist organizations. And he wrote, "I am very glad of Netanyahu's firm stance and his decision to speak against the nuclear agreement at the American Congress. I believe that Netanyahu's conduct will serve our interests, the people of the Gulf, much more than the foolish behavior of one of the worst American presidents." And an Israeli analyst added that Netanyahu's speech assured Sunni Arab peoples and governments that Israel will hold the line even if America fails us on Iran. While control of the Knesset is at stake in the upcoming election, the results will be felt throughout the region and around the world. Many of those Arab countries look around the region and see Iran's influence growing. For example, the U.S. closed its embassy in Yemen after a radical Islamist rebellion in the country. As Eric Stickleback explains, Yemen is an important part of Iran's strategy in the Middle East.
When a radical Shiite Muslim sect called the Houthis seized Yemen's capital city of Sana'a last year, it marked a dangerous new phase for a country that has long been plagued by violent chaos. Yemen is located on the southern tip of the Arabian Peninsula and is already home to an al-Qaeda branch that has directed several attacks against the U.S. and Europe. Now the rise of the Houthis opens the door to yet another terrorist presence.
You look at the fall of the government of Yemen, which was allied with the United States, helping us in our efforts to silence al-Qaeda, and you see the Iranian Quds forces behind training and arming that effort.
Iran has long been suspected of funding and arming the Houthis, whose official slogan sounds very familiar to that of Iran's government: death to America, death to Israel, damnation to the Jews. Iran's support of the Houthis seems to be paying off as it eyes a bigger prize.
That was not a local issue. Yemen is a historical invasion route to Saudi Arabia. Yemen controls the very critical access of oil tankers from the Indian Ocean to the Red Sea and the Mediterranean.
Middle East expert and former Israeli ambassador Yoram Ettinger says Yemen is an important chess piece in Iran's larger plan of regional domination.
Iran is leveraging Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, in order to further destabilize the region, in order to destabilize pro-American Arab regimes.
In addition to Lebanon and Gaza, Iran is using its radical allies to gain influence in Yemen, Syria, and among Shiite leaders in Iraq. These moves leave Israel and another Iranian rival, Saudi Arabia, in hostile surroundings. Edinger says the ultimate target, however, is the United States.
The Iranians are pursuing a very clear anti-American tactic, and the reason is they consider the U.S. as the major obstacle on the road of attaining their major goal, namely the domination of the Gulf. No country in the world but the US can stop Iran from taking over the Gulf, and then the Muslim world.
Iran is reportedly working to develop intercontinental ballistic missiles that could one day reach the United States. Israeli satellites recently captured footage of an Iranian missile and launch site that could be equipped with such missiles.
That, quite frankly, is just going to open up a Pandora's box of a new world situation that is going to be very bad for the security of that whole region, and ultimately, I think, security of the entire world.
Eric Stakelbeck, CBN News, Washington.
Coming up, the rise and tolerance of militant Islam poses a huge threat to the entire world, and the survival of Western culture is at stake. Welcome back. An Australian pastor is warning Americans to wake up to protect their culture from creeping Islamism. Danny Nalia runs Catch the Fire Ministries. He spoke with CBN international correspondent Gary Lane about what the West's embrace of multiculturalism may lead to.
I'm guessing you feel there's a sense of urgency about Western culture. That's why you're on a tour of North America now. What are you telling people?
Yes, Gary, I think the need is so urgent right now. The time that I spent in Saudi Arabia, when I was in Saudi Arabia, I was forced to watch 3 people getting beheaded. And at that point, I learned a lot about Islam and studied the Quran. Definitely, what's happening right now, if the West does not wake up, it'll be too late. And that's the reason I wrote this book, 21st Century Culture War in the West. There is a massive struggle in between cultures right now. And it's so sad that the Western culture possibly is going to be under major threat. And it is under threat. And if we don't wake up and rise up and stand up right now, it'll be too far gone.
Well, Danny, why do you think our Western leaders are asleep? They really don't see the threat.
Well, the Bible speaks of, for a lack of knowledge, my people perish. Church part of it, I would say the church is asleep, very much asleep. Church is not waking up. But also government leaders have turned a blind eye to the challenge that we are facing. Our Prime Minister in Australia called ISIS a death cult. I went one step further and I said Islam is a death cult. Now, does that mean we corner all Muslims and tell them to get out of our country? No. We love and embrace the Muslim people as a group of people, people's group. But at the same time, we have the right to stand up against the faith of Islam because it teaches people to kill those who don't believe in the faith or make them pay a tax to live under as slaves.
We've seen the first Westerner killed by ISIS, an Australian. Your thoughts on that?
It's horrible. People are like, oh, it's so far away out there in the Middle East. It's never going to happen to us in Australia or in the West. And I said, oh boy, if you guys don't wake up to the smell of coffee, you're going to be regretting for the rest of your life. And sure, lo and behold, it's happening now in our backyard. Islam is a God-given mandate to the Muslim people to conquer the world. You would ask me the question, possibly, are there good Muslims? There are tens of thousands of good Muslims, but they cannot be true Muslims because a true Muslim is commanded by Allah to conquer the world because the world belongs to Allah. One of the problems we have is multiculturalism, and that issue needs to be addressed very quickly and speedily. Under multiculturalism, Islam finds its way, a doorway to enter this Western world. Because for Islam, the culture is Sharia law, 4 wives, 12-year-old brides, female genital mutilation is all a part of Islam's culture. So when our Western nations say we are multicultural, we have to embrace all their cultural practices. My call has been this: if a person immigrates into the West, I myself am an immigrant into the Western world, we need to integrate into the way of life we have come into. If you think where you have come from is better than where you have come into, then it's time for us to say, shut up, pack your bags, and get back to where you came from.
There are many Christians in this country who don't want to appear as being intolerant or not supporting religious freedom. How should we handle and address this situation here in the United States?
Love the Muslim people. Muslims are a people's group. Islam is a religion. It's time for us to take a stand, and now is the time to draw the lines on the sand and say, stand up for Jesus, stand up for your nation, love the Muslim people, love all people, pray for their salvation, stand your ground. But love does not mean it's weak. Perfect love drives out all fear.
Pastor Danny Nalia from Melbourne, Australia, Catch the Fire Ministries. We wish you the best on your tour of America, and thanks for joining us.
You can watch the full interview on the Global Lane blog at cbnnews.com. Coming up, the documentary on the Exodus that's being called a game changer.
6 steps in the right sequence, and we match the story of the Bible every 6 in all the steps, and shows evidence for the Bible that people have never seen before.
Check out the evidence for Exodus that demands a verdict. Next. Welcome back. More than a decade ago, one movie maker started investigating one of the Bible's most famous stories, the Exodus from Egypt. His journey led to both a crisis of faith and an award-winning documentary. This is from the film Patterns of Evidence, The Exodus. According to the book of Exodus, Moses led the children of Israel out of Egypt and into the wilderness for 40 years. Then Joshua led them across the Jordan River over here near Jericho into the Promised Land. Some say it's just a fable, but others say this new documentary provides evidence that demands a verdict.
I actually went to the location where the events were supposed to happen in Goshen in the eastern delta, and went to the archaeological sites, and that's what I was told, that there was no evidence for the Exodus.
Filmmaker Tim Mahoney's research into the Exodus and the Odyssey that followed produced startling results.
6 steps in the right sequence, and we match the story of the Bible every 6 in all the steps, and shows evidence for the Bible that people have never seen before.
The film proposes that when you get the timing right, archaeology matches history.
The whole thing, from the beginning of the sojourn in Egypt, the slavery, Moses and the Exodus, the conquest of the Promised Land, is all there in one nice, neat line, but it's way too early. You look for a collapse in Egyptian civilization, and that's where you'll find Moses and the Exodus.
When you put those cities side by side, the biblical account and the archaeology match extremely well.
There's this idea that Ramesses is the pharaoh of the Exodus, and I think that that happens in a particular time of history. And when everyone looks at that particular time, they're actually correct that there is no evidence for the Exodus. But other archaeologists and Egyptologists were saying, but wait a minute, there are evidences that are earlier than Ramesses that match this story.
Mahoney presents both sides of the archaeological argument. Did the Exodus really happen?
I hate to disappoint people, but we have no evidence for a single mass migration of people from one country coming into another country. I don't believe there was a single event that we can call the Exodus.
This person can't have seen all this. He imagined it.
I'm very much against chronological revisionism.
So far, there is no documented evidence about the Exodus.
Exodus did not happen in the way that it is described in the text.
How can we prove that?
The film is very, very convincing because we give both sides of it. We let you hear from archaeologists who say there is no evidence and why, and then we let you hear from archaeologists and Egyptologists who say there is.
Using state-of-the-art animation, groundbreaking archaeology, and new interpretation, it's already made a profound impact.
We would show these films to people who had no understanding or interest in the story. Even atheists saw it. And what they said was, wow, I love this film, I love this approach. One atheist wrote, I guess you did prove that, this event might have happened, but it doesn't mean that there were any miracles.
Ani, Ana, Ananel, Israel.
Mahoney says it's a powerful tool to reach the skeptic.
If you've got family members that don't believe in God, or if you have people that are suspicious or want a scientific approach, this film gives you that type of opportunity to have those kinds of conversations. It's one of the most neutral and most intriguing types of films that allow you to have that opportunity.
The film challenges a powerful notion that the Bible isn't true.
For the last 50, 60, 70 years, people have been very critical of the Bible. If the story of the Exodus isn't true, then what Jesus Christ said and the apostles about Moses and the Exodus, then those statements are false. The whole Bible has a foundation within this story of the Exodus. What this film does is that it actually shows where the pattern of evidence is, and that, I think, has never been done before.
Coming up, Israelis celebrate Purim, the holiday marking the deliverance from a Persian Holocaust more than 2,000 years ago. Welcome back. The holiday of Purim marks the deliverance of the Jewish people from the wicked plot of a Persian prime minister named Haman more than 2,000 years ago. Now Israelis face another life or death threat from Iran, modern-day Persia. The threat is still the same, but even so, the Jewish people are still celebrating.
Israelis take to the streets every year to celebrate Purim.
It's a chance to transform into whatever you want to be for a couple days.
At the Western Wall and in synagogues, the biblical book of Esther is read from a scroll. On the streets, it's a giant costume party. The celebration marks the victory of the Jewish people over wicked Haman, who tried to destroy them. Queen Esther, who unbeknownst to the king was Jewish, and her cousin Mordecai, exposed the plot and turned the tables. Fast forward 2,000 years, many see a parallel with today.
Back in the day, it was the Jews in Persia being persecuted and almost wiped out, and now we have the threat from Iran, so it kind of correlates the two.
The people in Israel are very worried about Iran. I think the whole world actually is supposed to be very worried about what's happening with all the nuclear program of Iran.
Always in every generation, there arises one who wants to kill the Jews, and then the creator of the world overturns it all.
For years, Iran has been threatening to destroy Israel. But the international community is currently trying to work out a deal with Tehran to curb its pursuit of nuclear weapons. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told Congress this week it's a bad deal.
It doesn't block Iran's path to the bomb. It paves Iran's path to the bomb.
Many see Netanyahu's warning like the pleading of Queen Esther for her people. And despite Iran's threats, Israelis believe they will once again survive.
3,000 years ago, someone from Iran wanted to kill us. The same situation now, someone from Iran wants to kill us, and we are gonna win, absolutely, for sure.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
As you can see, many people dress up in costumes during the holiday of Purim. And many believe that the God of Israel will continue to watch over Israel and have his hand on his people. Well, that's it for this edition. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.